Welcome everyone. I'm gonna start sharing my screen.
Well, this introductions first is I am James Trout, the Assistant Director for Academic Technologies and Innovation, and I was the former videographer for the university until about 2 years ago. And our new videographer.
Hi everyone, my name is Jaquay Patterson. I am the new videographer for ATI, and today we are going to go over pretty much the top 10 tips to look your best on video. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and pretty much this entire presentation is going to be about how to get rid of a lot of those distracting elements within your videos or your Zoom sessions so that you can look your best and everyone on the other end is paying attention to the most important thing, which is the information that you're giving to them. So with that being said, let's get started. And the first tip we have is to highlight the most important subject, which is you. You want to make sure that the lighting you have you want to make sure that your lighting makes you well lit. You don't want to have hot spots everywhere, and you don't want the lighting to be so low to the point where you can't be seen, because bad lighting is a big distraction. Because instead of listening to the information that you're giving them, the person on the other end is focusing more on trying to see you within the camera, or they're paying attention to these hot spots or these little specks that are on your face, and it's a distraction from the information that you're trying to give to them. So you want to make sure that you are completely well lit so that the other person on the other end can completely see your face. And then for the next tip.
So you want to think about the backgrounds you're in. One of the things that can be a problem with the cameras that you have in laptops or webcams is they're not really designed to do a lot of latitude within the spectrum of light. So if you have as a evenly lit area, the better. Especially if you have things like, a good example, if you had an open window behind you. Now it's to be a lot brighter behind you, not enough to be darker in front of you. Your lamps or your other types of lighting is not going to be as bright as the outdoor. So what you want to do is make sure that you have a darker background or something that's not going to blow out the lens in your webcam. So what we suggest is you have a wall or a bookshelf or something else behind you that's a little bit darker, and then in front of you have some sort of natural light, either your windows in front of you coming that direction, or in my case, in my space, I have a lamp over my head off the angle to try to light me as evenly as possible. So that's going to best be more flattering of a look, but make sure you don't have the window behind you. Go ahead.
And the next tip we have is actually where to place your camera. Now, you don't want your camera too high, you don't want it too low, you don't want to be too close, and you don't want to be too far away. The best place to put your camera is at eye level, because it gives more of a personal feel with the person you're going to be talking to. And like, you don't want your camera too low, because then it will look like to the other person watching your video or your Zoom session that you're looking down on them. Or if it's too high, it's going to look like you're looking up at them. And it's distracting when you're trying to listen to someone and their head is somewhere awkwardly placed on the screen. So what you want to do is make sure that your camera is set at eye level and your face is nice and centered. And I know a lot of us are held to webcams within our laptops, and you're not able to physically move the camera up. So the best thing for you to do is to go find some books or maybe a box, something stable that you can place your laptop on so you can raise it up to be at eye level. And once you do that, the best thing for you to do is once you place your camera exactly where it needs to be, tape off where you put it. So in the event that you have to take your laptop away from the setup that you've already done, when you come back, you can put your laptop exactly where it was before, and you won't have to worry about if it's too high, too low, or where it needs to be. It'll be exactly where you placed it because you already measured for that. And for the next tip that we have for you
is going back, is checking your surroundings. One of the things that can be very distracting and also dangerous for your own personal information is what you have behind you. You want to make sure that if you have a bookshelf behind you, which usually looks really good, but make sure there's things not like personal photos, maybe your family photos, documents, checkbooks, anything that can be seen in the background. One of the things that can easily happen is, this is a picture, and we're taking, right now, a lot of people are taking pictures of their lives. So if there's any kind of sensitive information you have in your background, make sure it's not there. Also, we're all in kind of unique locations right now in our homes, in our garages. I'll be very honest, I'm actually doing this presentation from a closet. But you want to think where you're at and try to limit as many distractions as possible, have a professional looking background. And if you don't have that, let's hit the next slide. Stratcom has come out with a number of great virtual backgrounds that can be accessed. And we'll put the web page up on in the chat, but you can see as we scroll through, there's a number of different backgrounds that the university has already provided that are Stratcom's used. Go to the next one, that you can download and use for yourself. Now, one of the things I want to also bring up to this is, if you don't want to do that, think about what your location is. I'm going to show you something because I'm going to give for all, I was trying to take my background up, but I'm not going to be able to do it. So like I said, right here this is a university, but behind me I actually have a green screen. Now, some people will think you need to have a green screen behind you to do this. You don't. The way that the technology works in Zoom, it looks at the area behind you and creates that virtual background. So let me do this really quick, just to have fun with this. You can see I do have a green screen behind me, but you don't need this. So I am using that, but you don't need to have it. There you go.
very, very useful.
Okay.
And so for the next tip that we have is what you're actually wearing. Now, I know we all are interesting and very individual person. We all have our own individual personalities, and the clothes we wear are very interesting, but that's also a distraction as well, because you really don't want all these fun and exciting patterns going on in your clothing, because the person on the other end, like let's say your students or other faculty members, instead of paying attention to what you're saying, they're constantly looking down at what you're wearing. Because it is interesting, you chose to wear it, and we all want to be ourselves. But since that is a distraction, to eliminate that, the best thing for you to do is to wear solid, bold colors, because that'll eliminate the distraction of your students constantly looking at the clothes that you are wearing, as opposed to actually paying attention to the information that you're saying. So it's best to be mindful of what you're wearing, because that is a possible distraction. And the next tip that we have
is going towards your Wi-Fi. Now, we're all, right now, most of us are probably using some sort of Wi-Fi at home, or if not, you may have to use your cell phone as a tethering device. But what you want to do is try to get the best Wi-Fi signal you possibly can. Some of the things that, and I know right now it's challenging when you have possibly multiple people in the same household working from home, using the Wi-Fi. But if there's a way that you can do it where you can limit the number of things that are using Wi-Fi at that point in time. So if you're teaching a course, if it's possible to have the other computers in your home not using Wi-Fi at that time, but just on yours, that will help your bandwidth. I think that the bandwidth we're using is a pipe, and there's only so much data can move through that pipe at a certain time. So if you have a number of devices on at the same time, you're doing your Zoom course, you've got another iPad that's running, another family member has their computer going on, and I know with my own experience, we have PlayStation 4 that's connected to the internet here. All of that reduces your bandwidth. So if you can eliminate some of that, if you're having issues with your bandwidth, that'll improve the quality of your transmission using Zoom. So, or if you're doing a recording through Camtasia or Play Pause It, but that's something to think about, is try to limit what you have. Now, if you're still having issues with bad reception with your Wi-Fi, the cable providers and the cellular providers now have great deals that you can get hotspots from them, or the cellular providers, the cable providers are actually raising up and speeding up their connection. So that might be something you want to do, is call your provider if you're actually having problems with your Wi-Fi quality. Next one.
Oh, and I have one more thing to add. Like, if you have to and you don't have the ability to get a hotspot, you can also use your cell phone as a hotspot tether to help increase your bandwidth. And if you can't use your cell phone, you can't get a hotspot from your local provider, and you're still having issues with maybe having a frozen screen or your computer not being running as fast as it can, the best thing for you to do is to turn off your video, because the processing power it takes for Zoom to actually run your video, it takes up a lot of the bandwidth. And one of the most important things for other faculty members and for the students right now is to get the information that they need to pass the classes. And so the best thing to do is to turn off your video, because even though they won't be able to see you, they'll at least be able to hear that which you need to tell them so they can have the information to pass the class.
One of the things to consider is bad video is one thing, bad audio is another thing. People are more forgiving with bad video than they are with bad audio. So when you really think about this, you make sure that your audio is better than your video.
And this all kind of ties into our next tip, which is to close all unnecessary programs, because everything that you have open on your computer, every single tab, every single window, every program, it takes away the processing power of your computer to actually run the program you're going to be doing your digital sessions on, or what you're recording. So if you don't need it open at the time, the best thing to do is to close it so that your computer has all of the bandwidth and all of the processing power that it needs to fully run the program. So you'll know if you need to go out and get a hotspot or turn off your video. You'll absolutely know what the capabilities of your computer is if you make sure you close everything.
Now, the next thing is about going back to the audio. Right now, most of us are using various types of ways to record our audio. Here I'm using just these headsets. It's got a little microphone here on them. Most of us are just using the microphone that is built into our laptops or iPads. Now, there's a certain level of quality of audio with that. And I'll be very honest, I have not gone out and got what I really need for better audio for this. There's a number of USB microphones that are on the market. There you can go online, you can go to Best Buy and see, excuse me, see a number of these USB microphones. They're going to provide far better audio quality. There's a large range in price on those. Some of them will go for $50, some of them could be $500. So you got to think about what is your use for it. If you're doing podcast, you probably want a more expensive one in the $100, $200 range. If you want something that is just for what we're doing right now, trying to get through this period, probably a $50 one would be fine. But it's also important to have, once you're working with these different audio recording devices, do a test recording, work with a friend or faculty, your students, do a test run, see how it sounds. If it's going to be acceptable. Sometimes you can get away with what this is. In this case, it's just my voice is horrible. So that's probably the hard part for this whole presentation. But other things is you want to try to see what is your output want to be. Is it something you want to do at a professional level? These are videos that you'll be using for a long period of time. You may want to invest in a higher quality USB microphone. If not, just use what you've got, test it out, see how it sounds. But if you're having problems, then I would suggest a USB microphone would be a good solution. Next.
And tying into what James said is to do a test run, because once you have your lighting straight, you have your camera where it needs to be, you've tested your audio, the best thing to do before you actually need to use the setup that you created is to test it. So just open up the program you're going to be used to recording, you're going to be using to record, or just open up Zoom, make a private Zoom session, and see how everything is going to look. Because in your head, it may work, but then once you put into practice, there may be a few micro adjustments that you need, like you may need to adjust the audio a little bit, or you may need to adjust your camera just a little bit, or your lighting, so it'll be exactly where you want it to be. So the best thing to do is just to test and make sure that before you actually need to use the setup, it's exactly the way you want it to be, so that you won't have to worry about it when you do have to go use it. And finally, the next tip we have for you is optional, but one of the things that you can do is invest in an external webcam.
Now, external webcams are a hot commodity right now in the market because the whole world is moving over to Zoom. But what it does is it gives you a little more flexibility in camera position and quality. The ones that are in laptops, depends on the year the laptop was made, what manufacturer it was. So there's a wide variety of quality that you're going to see in the internal webcams. These other ones that you have that are from Logitech, which are very good, they're USB ones. They plug into your USB port, and they provide you a little bit more flexibility in positioning. You could move the camera to different areas, to a different, a better location. Let's say right now, you don't have the books that you need to stack your laptop onto. This you could put on a stand or clamp it to on top of your laptop, or clamp it onto something else and give you a better angle that would look much better than what you're previously using. The other thing is the quality on many of these external webcams are far better. Much better quality, much better ability to handle a wide spectrum of lighting. So if you're in a room that has quite a bit of range in dark and light, it's far better to handle those different exposures. So that's another option you want to look at. Now, kind of going back to the same thing with the USB microphone. A lot of things do with budget. So there's a wide spectrum of range on webcams as there is for the microphones. So the first thing is what works with your budget. That's probably the most important thing. And then second, is it going to provide you that quality that you really need? So if your laptop works great, great. If your iPad works great, wonderful. But if you're having those challenges with it, there are other tools in the market. Find something that works well with your budget.
And that concludes all the top 10 tips. And so we're going to be answering questions now. And if we don't get to your questions, I have placed my email on the PowerPoint. You feel free to email me if you want a copy of this PowerPoint, or if you have any separate questions that didn't get answered. I'll get back to you as soon as I get an answer and as soon as I get the questions. So we're going to open up the chat.
Now, James, we have you here, so you're our one guest. I have about a few minutes left before I have to go, but do you have any questions?
No, it was just a reaffirmation of the stuff I'm doing now, so it's good. No, it was well done. You did a good job. Yeah.
Which courses are you teaching?
I'm teaching 4. I'm teaching it's all Kines. The hassle that I'm running into is I have to teach hands-on evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
So for every body part, and so what I'm doing is I'm turning it into telemedicine. So I'm going to teach you how to evaluate yourself, which everybody else is doing right now. So we're going to be kind of ahead the curve. So it's completely backwards. It's weird.
I might have something else for you.
Yeah.
And I've met you before. You're with the sports center, the sports clinic in Riverside.
In Riverside, yeah. Today is dress up day. I wore my tuxedo. Monday's hat day. We got days every day.
I met you back when I was producing the sports broadcast in Riverside for Charter Cable years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're working on something with called Sketchfab, which has three-dimensional objects in it, and some of them are actually bones, muscle structure, and such.
Oh, I need those.
And that's something we're working on right now. As we haven't released it, but we're actually working with a few faculty on testing that concept out. So I have to jump out. How about this? I can email you some of that information later.
Yeah.
And see if that's something that might be helpful to you.
Yeah, because it's a completely, I'm figuring it out as I go right now because you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I'd love that. I'd absolutely love that. I have a lot of videos with cadavers and stuff on them, but I need people touching things. Yeah.
So I have to jump out.
Okay.
If you have any more questions, please.
Good.
All right. Well then, Dave, good to see you. Take care. Stay safe.
All right, man.
And this concludes it. So I'll catch up with you later on the day.
All right.
All right.
So, Mr. Clover, do you have any other questions, or?
No, I'm good. I got to go to a football game.
Seems very interesting. It doesn't look like they're doing a lot of social distancing, though.
Yeah, they aren't doing it there. No,
okay, then. I thank you so much for joining our presentation.
No, it was wonderful.
It was very informative for you.
Okay. Do you want? Is there something you want me to fill out? Most generally they send you a text message of a thing that you went to it. No.
I don't know. Jolene, do you know the answer to that question, or?
I've taken a million Zoom classes.
I believe there was a Qualtrics survey, Dr. Clover. So I don't have that survey, but we can email it to you.
No, I always thought that was something you guys wanted. It doesn't matter to me. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.